The revolution of letting go. You know what nobody tells you about survival? That it's supposed to end. That at some point you're allowed to stop running, stop proving, stop white knuckling your way through every single day like it's a test you didn't study for. Nobody tells you that the cape gets heavy, that being strong all the time is actually just another word for exhausted. That resilience, real resilience, isn't about how much you can carry. It's about knowing when to finally set it down. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with Denise Smith. And let me tell you something about this woman. Denise isn't just doing work in the world, she's rewriting the entire narrative around what's possible after trauma. She's out here in communities, in prisons, in spaces where hope has been rationed like it's a luxury item, reminding people that their past does not get the final vote on their peace. She's teaching transformation not as theory, not as inspiration porn, but as a lived, breathing daily practice. Denise Smith is proof that the work of healing can ripple out and shift entire ecosystems. And the insights she shared with me, they're the kind that sit in your chest and refuse to leave. During our conversation, Denise said something that I haven't been able to shake. She said that resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about choosing every single day not to let what happened to you become what happens in you. And I don't know about you, but that hit different because so many of us, especially those of us who've been holding down households and careers and everybody else's emotions since we were old enough to understand responsibility, we've been taught that survival is the goal. Get through it. Be strong. Don't cry. Don't complain. Just keep going. And we did. We kept going so hard and so long that we forgot we were allowed to stop. We forgot that softness isn't weakness, that rest isn't laziness, that saying no isn't selfish. We've been living in survival mode for so long that we don't even recognize peace when it shows up. We're suspicious of it. We think it's a trap. We think if we let our guard down for 1 second, everything we've built will collapse. But here's what Denise reminded me, and what I want to remind you: what happens to you, the violence, the loss, the betrayal, the trauma, the incarceration, the stigma, none of that has to live inside you. You get to decide what stays. You get to decide what gets evicted. You get to choose love and kindness and inner peace, even when your circumstance tried to teach you otherwise. Now, I want to tell you about Alice Marie Johnson. You might know her name, you might not. But her story is one that'll make you rethink everything you thought you knew about second chances and the power of faith. Alice was sentenced to life in prison without parole for a nonviolent drug offense. Life, no parole, for a first time offense. She lost everything: her freedom, her family, her future. Alice's journey began in a place so many of us understand: personal and financial hardship, desperation, the kind of desperation that makes you make choices you never thought you'd make. And when the system came for her, it came hard. Life without parole. Can you imagine that? Waking up every single day knowing you'll never leave, knowing your children will grow up without you, knowing your grandchildren might never know your voice outside of a phone call through prison glass. She could have let that bitterness consume her. She could have let that injustice turn her heart cold, turn her into someone unrecognizable. But she didn't. Instead, Alice became an advocate from inside those prison walls. She mentored other women. She held on to her faith like it was oxygen. She wrote, she prayed, she chose every single day not to let what happened to her become who she was. Her time in prison wasn't just time served, it was marked by introspection, spiritual growth, and a commitment to helping others. She didn't just survive her days, she used them. She poured into other women who were drowning. She became a voice for those who'd lost theirs. And after 21 years, her sentence was commuted. 21 years. She walked out of that prison not with rage, but with purpose. Alice didn't just re enter society, she became a national voice for criminal justice reform, for second chances, for the idea that people are more than their worst mistakes. She authored a memoir. She spoke at national forums. She worked with organizations to support returning citizens. Her advocacy has influenced national conversations on sentencing reform and redemption. Alice didn't just survive, she transformed. And she did it by refusing to let her circumstances dictate her spirit. That's resilience. That's power. That's what it looks like when you decide that your story doesn't end with your trauma. And then there's Centoya Brown. Centoya was 16 years old when she was sentenced to life in prison for killing a man who bought her for sex. 16, a child, a trafficking victim. And the system looked at her and said, life sentence, no mercy, no consideration for what she'd already survived: childhood abuse, exploitation, instability, a world that failed her over and over again before she was old enough to vote. But Centoya didn't let that be the end of her story either. She pursued education while incarcerated. She earned her associate degree, then her bachelor's. Think about that. Behind bars, with limited resources, with the weight of a life sentence on her shoulders, she chose education. She embraced faith. She found hope and purpose through faith based programs in prison. She became an advocate for victims' rights. She refused to be defined by what was done to her. And after 15 years, her sentence was commuted. She walked out of that prison, wrote a memoir called Free Centoya, and became a voice for legislative change in Tennessee. Her situation brought national attention to how we treat child trafficking victims in the justice system. It sparked conversations. It inspired legislative changes. Centoya's story is proof that even when the world tries to bury you, even when it labels you, even when it writes you off, you still get to rise. You still get to rewrite the narrative. You still get to choose softness and faith and healing over bitterness and rage. And I can't talk about resilience and transformation without talking about Maya Angelou. Maya experienced sexual abuse as a child, trauma, poverty, and for years she went silent, completely silent. Selective mutism born from pain so deep she couldn't speak. The abuse she endured stole her voice literally, but she found solace in literature, in words, in the power of storytelling. After years of silence, Maya's love for words and the support of her community helped her heal and find her voice. And eventually, she reclaimed her voice. Not just reclaimed it, she used it to change the world. Maya became a celebrated poet, a civil rights activist, a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to let your pain have the last word. She wrote, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and in doing so, she gave voice to millions of people who thought their stories didn't matter. She received numerous awards for her contributions to arts and civil rights. She showed us that inner peace and kindness are possible no matter what violence you've endured. Maya's life and work have inspired generations to rise above adversity and use their voices for change. These women, Alice, Centoya, Maya, they didn't just survive. They chose transformation. They chose faith. They chose to believe that their past did not get to define their peace or their future. And that's what Denise Smith is out here teaching. That's the message she's carrying into the world, that you get to choose. Every single day, you get to choose. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, that's great for them, but you don't know what I've been through. You don't know how heavy my story is. And you're right, I don't. But here's what I do know: your story, no matter how heavy, no matter how painful, is also your power. What happened to you doesn't have to happen in you. You get to decide what stays and what goes. You get to decide whether you're going to let that trauma run your life or whether you're going to run your life. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you just wake up one day and decide to be healed and boom, you're healed. That's not how this works. Like, healing is messy, it's non-linear. It's two steps forward and three steps back sometimes. It's crying in the shower. It's therapy sessions that feel like they rip you open. It's setting boundaries with people you love and watching them not understand. But it's possible. And it starts with a choice to stop carrying what was never yours to carry in the first place. Real faith, isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's not about toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing. It's about holding on to hope even when everything around you is falling apart. It's about believing that peace is possible even when your circumstances are screaming otherwise. Faith is what sustained Alice in that prison cell. It's what kept Centoya going when the world had written her off. It's what helped Maya find her voice again after years of silence. And faith doesn't have to look like church on Sunday or scripture memorization or any of the things we've been told it's supposed to look like. Faith can be quiet, it can be personal, it can be messy, it can be you at 3 in the morning whispering to yourself, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it through this. That's faith. That's hope. That's you choosing to believe in your own resilience. During my conversation with Denise Smith, she emphasized that unwavering faith and hope can be a constant source of strength, even in the most turbulent circumstances. And I felt that because so many of us have been taught that faith means you don't struggle, that if you're really faithful, you won't hurt. But that's not true. Faith doesn't erase pain, it just gives you something to hold on to while you're walking through it. Faith is the hand you reach for in the dark. It's the whisper that says, keep going when your legs are tired. And here's the part that I think we forget: your story, the one you're living right now, the one you're still writing, it matters. It has power, not because it's perfect or because you've figured everything out, but because it's real, because it's yours. And when you live authentically, when you choose compassion and kindness and softness, even after everything you've been through, you give other people permission to do the same. You become living proof that transformation is possible, that healing is possible, that peace is possible. And that's how we change the world, not by pretending we have it all together, but by showing up as our whole, messy, beautiful, resilient selves and saying, I survived and I'm still choosing love. Because here's the truth: you are not your trauma, you are not your mistakes, you are not the worst thing that ever happened to you. You are the person who survived it. You are the person who's still here, still fighting, still choosing to show up. And that right there is everything. Denise Smith is out here doing the work of reminding people that no matter what you've endured, you can still choose peace. You can still choose kindness. You can still choose love. And that's not just a nice idea, that's a revolution. That's how we break cycles. That's how we heal communities. That's how we reclaim our softness in a world that taught us survival. So here's what I need you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, right now. I need you to think about your story. Think about the parts you've been carrying that don't belong to you: the shame, the guilt, the belief that you're too broken or too damaged or too far gone. I need you to start the process of letting that go. Not all at once, not perfectly, but just start. Reflect on one area where you can choose compassion and faith over bitterness or despair. Just one. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for something you've been holding on to for years. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been draining your energy. Maybe it's just allowing yourself to rest without guilt. And then reach out to someone else who's struggling, someone who needs to hear that their past doesn't dictate their worth or their future. Be for them what Alice and Centoya and Maya have been for so many of us. Be proof that transformation is possible. Send the text, make the call, show up. Because your story, your survival, your softness It's not just for you, it's for the person who's watching you, wondering if they can make it too. This is your permission slip. You don't have to carry that cape anymore. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to have it all figured out. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to heal. You're allowed to be soft. And you're allowed to believe that your story, no matter how painful, is also your power. What happens to you doesn't have to happen in you. You get to choose. Every single day, you get to choose. So choose peace, choose healing, choose yourself. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because you deserve it. You've always deserved it. And it's time you started believing that.